Hi there, my name is Marla Neufeld. I'm a surrogacy attorney in Florida, and I'm going to talk about a hot topic in surrogacy, which a lot of people are always very curious about, is whether the intended parents can receive pumped breast milk when the baby is delivered. So, of course, you never know whether a surrogate can or is willing to pump and produce, breast milk. But it is definitely something that is discussed, and I recommend talking about it at the very beginning of the process when everybody's entering into the surrogacy agreement together to understand that whether if the parents want pumped breast milk when the baby's born, and just to see if the surrogate's even okay with doing it in a conceptual level. There's some women who know they can't pump, had trouble pumping in the past, aren't comfortable with pumping. So if there's a parent where pumped breast milk is super important, something they hope they can get, it's important to be on the same page with your surrogate to make sure she's willing to do it. Now, many times, if the parties in concept are okay to have pumped breast milk from the surrogate after birth, there is language typically included in the surrogacy agreement that's entered into at the beginning of the process, setting out the whole mechanism for how it will be handled. And typically, this language includes provisions that the intended parents will pay for really any expenses associated with pumping, with the hospital grade pump and the bags and any shipping supplies, because obviously the surrogate should not have to pay any of those expenses associated with the pumping. And on top of that, many times, not always, the surrogate will receive some form of reimbursement of her expenses for pumping. So there might be a daily fee, a weekly fee for pumping. Sometimes I've seen a per ounce of milk payment. So it's, best if the parties kind of think they might be pumping breast milk to include language in that agreement, in the surrogacy agreement, so that it's all set out at the beginning and the parties won't later have to really talk about what the payment mechanisms and process will be like when the birth occurs. Now, of course, you can never force a surrogate to pump breast milk. So even within the contract, if the parties agree that she's willing to try, she might not be able to. She might not want to. It might be more uncomfortable than she realized. So, of course, it's always like a best wishes that she can pump and will pump if that's what they agree to, but there's no ability to really enforce the surrogate's willingness to pump. It's really out of like the whole process out of the goodness of her own heart. But it is something that can be at least discussed as to the wishes of the parties and possibly included in the contract. Now, I have had clients where the intended mother, with consultation obviously with their appropriate medical professionals, have through certain hormonal medications and pumping themselves have been able to produce breast milk. So that is a possibility. That's something that can be discussed with your applicable medical provider. I'm not endorsing it either way, just I've seen it. So that's something to think about. And I would say back to the pumped breast milk option from the surrogate, what I see most often, if the parties do it at all, is many times the surrogate will pump while she's at the hospital. All the equipment is there. It's very easy to get the milk. But many times, surrogates and parents live in totally different states, even different countries. It can be very, very difficult or really sometimes impossible to ship the pumped breast milk. So many times the parties will stop sharing the milk once everybody's left from the hospital. Anyways, that's an interesting thing to think about. Definitely something to discuss in the beginning and see if it works with everybody. And if you have any questions about other typical provisions that go into a surrogacy agreement, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.